Hello there, dear friends. Prepare to be swept away by a captivating tale of love, resilience, and the unexpected twists and turns that life has to offer. Enjoy the story. Jack Thompson was a force to be reckoned with, both in the boardroom and in the gym. As the owner of a highly successful IT company, he had climbed the ranks of the corporate world with a potent combination of brilliant business acumen and sheer force of will. Standing at an impressive 6'5" inches with broad shoulders and a chiseled physique, he was an imposing figure that commanded attention wherever he went. Yet despite his intimidating stature, those who knew him best were drawn to the warmth in his deep brown eyes and the easy grin that often tugged at his lips. Jack was a man of contradictions, as mercurial as he was charismatic. His mood could shift on a dime, leaving his employees scrambling to anticipate his next move. But there was one thing that remained constant: Jack's unwavering belief in the power of celebration. He was known for his lavish corporate events and team-building excursions, sparing no expense in his quest to unite his workforce. "Work hard, play hard," was the mantra he lived by, and he expected his employees to embrace it with the same fervor. However, despite Jack's best efforts, a deep divide persisted among the various departments of the company. The programmers, with their esoteric jargon and insular culture, kept to themselves, rarely venturing beyond their dimly lit cubicles. The accountants and economists, forever engrossed in spreadsheets and financial projections, formed an elite clique that was notoriously difficult to penetrate. Amidst this sea of disconnection, one figure emerged as the linchpin that held the company together: Rose, Jack's stunning executive assistant. With her glossy chestnut hair, designer outfits, and razor-sharp wit, Rose was the gatekeeper to the throne, the one person who had Jack's ear and could make or break careers with a single well-placed word. Her influence extended far beyond her official job description, and she wielded her power with a velvet glove, always keeping her perfectly manicured fingers on the pulse of the company. Into this world of corporate intrigue and high-stakes power plays walked Emily, a wide-eyed 19-year-old orphan who had just landed a job as a janitor at Jack's company. Emily was as guileless as they came, her heart as pure as the driven snow. She had no family to speak of, no connections to leverage, no ulterior motives to fulfill. All she had was a fierce determination to succeed and a work ethic that would put most CEOs to shame. On her first day on the job, Emily made a beeline straight for Jack's office, brimming with nervous energy and a touch of naivete. She burst through the door unannounced, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished marble floor. Jack looked up from his desk, his expression a mix of surprise and bemusement at the sight of this disheveled young woman standing before him. "I'm Emily," she declared, her voice trembling slightly but her gaze unwavering. "And I'm here to work harder than anyone else in this building. I promise you, Mr. Thompson, you won't regret giving me a chance." Jack leaned back in his chair, studying Emily with a critical eye. He took in her threadbare sweater, her faded jeans, the wisps of hair escaping from her haphazard ponytail. There was something about her, a spark of raw potential that intrigued him. He reached for the intercom button on his desk phone. "Nellie, could you come in here for a moment? I think we may have found our new janitor." As Emily settled into her new role, she quickly realized that fitting in at the company would be an uphill battle. Her co-workers, particularly those in Rose's orbit, wasted no time in making their disdain for her known. They whispered behind her back, snickering at her discount store uniform and her clumsy attempts at small talk. The nickname "floor rag" began to circulate, a cruel jab at Emily's lowly position and her perceived lack of worth. But Emily refused to let their taunts get under her skin. She threw herself into her work with a single-minded determination, arriving early and staying late to ensure that every inch of the building sparkled. She may have been at the bottom of the corporate ladder, but she was determined to make her mark, one spotless floor at a time. As the weeks turned into months, Emily began to notice a shift in the way Jack looked at her. His gaze would linger just a moment too long, his smile a touch warmer than it was for anyone else. She tried to dismiss it as her imagination, but a small secret part of her couldn't help but wonder if there might be something more between them. One crisp autumn day, as Emily was walking home from work, she found herself drawn to the window of a high-end boutique. There, displayed like a work of art, was the most beautiful dress she had ever seen. It was a deep, vibrant blue, with intricate beading and a flowing skirt that seemed to dance in the light. Emily pressed her nose against the glass, her breath fogging the window as she drank in every detail. Lost in her reverie, she didn't notice the approaching footsteps until it was too late. Rose and her entourage surrounded her, their perfectly glossed lips curled into cruel smirks. "Well, well, well, if it isn't the floor rag herself," Rose sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "Dreaming of a fairy godmother to magic you into that dress for the ball?" The other women tittered, their laughter sharp and mocking. Emily felt her cheeks burn with humiliation, hot tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. She wanted nothing more than to disappear, to sink into the cracks of the sidewalk and vanish forever. But just as she was about to flee, a deep, commanding voice cut through the laughter. "What's going on here?" Emily's heart leaped into her throat. It was Jack, his brow furrowed and his eyes flashing with barely contained anger. Rose and her cronies immediately fell silent, their faces paling beneath their carefully applied makeup. "Nothing, Mr. Thompson," Rose stammered, her usual bravado nowhere to be found. "We were just having a little fun, that's all." Jack's jaw clenched, his gaze hardening. "Rose, I have made it abundantly clear that I will not tolerate bullying of any kind in my company. I expect you to apologize to Emily immediately." Rose's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, but no words came out. Finally, she managed a tight, insincere smile. "Of course, Mr. Thompson. Emily, I apologize for my behavior. It won't happen again." With that, she turned on her heel and stalked away, her entourage scurrying after her like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Emily stood rooted to the spot, her heart pounding and her mind reeling. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Jack Thompson, the most powerful man she knew, had just defended her honor. And then, one day, the announcement came. Jack was taking the entire company on a week-long retreat to a luxurious resort, no expense spared. Emily's heart sank at the news. A whole week trapped with her tormentors, with no escape? It sounded like her worst nightmare come to life. But her sister Maya, ever the voice of reason, convinced her to go. "This is your chance, Em," she insisted, her eyes shining with excitement. "A whole week to show them the real you, away from the cleaning supplies and the fluorescent lights. And who knows, maybe you'll even get some one-on-one time with that hunky boss of yours." Emily blushed at the thought, but she knew Maya was right. This trip was an opportunity, a chance to rewrite her story. She would go, and she would hold her head high. She was done being the floor rag, the invisible girl. It was time for the world to see Emily for who she really was. The morning of the trip arrived, and Emily found herself nervously perched on a seat at the front of the chartered bus, her stomach churning with a mix of excitement and dread. She watched as her co-workers filed on, their designer luggage and expensive sunglasses a stark contrast to her own modest duffel bag and thrift store shades. Just as the bus was about to depart, Jack bounded up the steps, his 6-year-old son Tommy in tow. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she watched him make his way down the aisle, his mere presence seeming to fill the entire vehicle. As he passed her seat, he paused, his eyes meeting hers in a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity. "Ready for some fun in the sun, Emily?" he asked, his voice warm and inviting. Emily could only nod, her tongue tied in knots. She watched as Jack settled into his seat, Tommy bouncing excitedly beside him. As the bus lurched into motion, Emily leaned her head against the window, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. Maybe, just maybe, this trip would be the turning point she had been waiting for. The resort was a tropical paradise, all swaying palm trees, crystal clear waters, and pristine white sand. Emily couldn't remember the last time she had seen something so breathtakingly beautiful. As her co-workers raced to claim the best rooms, Emily hung back, content to take in the scenery and breathe in the salty sea air. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the tranquil atmosphere. Emily whipped around to see Tommy, tears streaming down his face, cornered by a snarling stray dog. Without a second thought, she sprinted towards the boy, placing herself between him and the crazed animal. The dog's teeth sank into her forearm, and she cried out in pain, but she refused to let go of Tommy, shielding him with her body until help arrived. The next few hours passed in a blur of pain and confusion. Emily was rushed to the resort clinic, her arm bandaged and her head swimming with the events of the day. She couldn't shake the image of Tommy's terrified face or the feeling of the dog's jaws clamping down on her flesh. As evening fell, a soft knock sounded at her door. Emily opened it to find Jack standing there, his expression a mix of concern and gratitude. "Emily," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you. You saved my son's life today." Emily ducked her head, suddenly shy. "I just did what anyone would do, Mr. Thompson. Is Tommy okay?" "He's shaken, but he'll be fine, thanks to you. And please, call me Jack." He held out a glossy gift box, his eyes shining with an emotion Emily couldn't quite place. "I got you something, to replace your uniform after today." With trembling hands, Emily opened the box to reveal the stunning blue dress she had admired all those months ago. Tears sprang to her eyes as she ran her fingers over the delicate beading, hardly daring to believe it was real. "Jack, I can't accept this," she whispered. "It's too much." But Jack just smiled, his hand coming to rest gently on her uninjured arm. "You deserve it, Emily. You're an extraordinary young woman. Wear it to dinner tonight, as my guest of honor." That evening, as Emily entered the dining room in her breathtaking gown, all eyes turned to her. She was a vision, her chestnut hair swept up in an elegant updo, the dress clinging to her curves like a second skin. She held her head high as she glided to the head table, where Jack awaited her with a proud smile. The next morning, Emily was awakened by an urgent knocking at her door. She opened it to find a harried-looking Jack, his brow furrowed with worry. "Emily, I need your help," he said without preamble. "Rose and half the admin team have called in sick, and I have crucial negotiations with a client today. I know it's not your job, but could you fill in as my assistant? You're the only one I trust." Emily squared her shoulders, a newfound confidence surging through her veins. "Of course, Jack. I'll do whatever you need." The day was a whirlwind of phone calls, paperwork, and high-stakes meetings, but through it all, Emily remained calm and poised, her natural intelligence and charm winning over even the most skeptical of clients. Jack watched her with growing admiration, marveling at the hidden depths of this remarkable young woman. As the last client left, Jack turned to Emily, his eyes shining with an emotion that took her breath away. "Emily," he said softly, taking her hands in his, "I don't know how to thank you for today. You were magnificent. I couldn't have done it without you." Emily felt her heart swell with pride and something else, something warm and tender that she hardly dared to name. "I was happy to help, Jack. I'd do anything for you." The words hung in the air between them, weighted with unspoken meaning. Jack drew her closer, his gaze intense and searching. "Emily, there's something I need to tell you, something I've been wanting to say for a long time." Emily held her breath, hardly daring to hope. Could this really be happening? Could Jack Thompson, the man she had admired and longed for from afar, really be about to confess his feelings for her? "The truth is," Jack continued, his voice low and earnest, "I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the day you barged into my office. Your spirit, your kindness, your beauty, both inside and out. I've fallen in love with you, Emily. Deeply, irrevocably in love." Tears sprang to Emily's eyes as she gazed up at him, her heart threatening to burst with joy. "Oh, Jack," she whispered, "I love you too. I think I have from the very beginning." And then he was kissing her, his lips warm and insistent against hers, his arms pulling her close as if he never wanted to let her go. Emily melted into his embrace, pouring all the love and longing she had kept hidden for so long into that one perfect, shining moment. 1 year later, Emily twirled on the dance floor in a gown of purest white, her new husband's strong arms around her waist. She looked out at the sea of smiling faces, her sister Maya, little Tommy, all the friends and colleagues who had watched her blossom from a shy, overlooked janitor into a confident, beloved wife, and philanthropist. And though the scars on her arm never fully faded, Emily wore them with pride, a reminder of the day she had put another's life before her own and set in motion the chain of events that would lead her to her true calling.